Thanks very much. Good evening and welcome to today's meeting of the West Berkshire Council Governance Committee. I'm Councillor Eric Pattenden and I will be chairing the meeting. Before we start, I'd like to take a moment to remember Parish Councillor Bill Graham, who sadly passed away last Friday. Bill was Shoreham Donington Parish Chairman for 8 years and had been a member of the Governance Committee here since 2021 and had even played an active role in a meeting we had last week. So this is tragic news. On behalf of the committee, I'd like to offer my sincere condolences to his friends and family. Today's meeting is being held over Zoom and with councillors present in the room. In addition to myself, the other members of the committee in attendance are Councillors Dominic Bowick, Jeremy Cottam, Paul Dick, Owen Jeffrey, David Marsh, Chris Reed and Louise Sturgis. We also have Parish Council representative on the committee, Councillor David Southgate and independent member Simon Carey. Parish councillors and independent members are permitted to speak at the meeting, but they are not permitted to vote on the items. Joseph Holmes, Nicola Thomas and Julie Gillespie are the officers who will be advising the meeting, and we're also joined by Sophia Brown of Grant Thornton. Sadie Owen is in attendance as the clerk to the meeting and Vicky Phoenix as the Zoom host. If we hear the evacuation alarm this evening, we must leave the building immediately. Please proceed via the safe emergency exit route, which will be shown to us by the trained officers present. Please follow any instructions given by the trained officers present. And the assembly point is the car park of the Dolphin Pub. So firstly, item 1, apologies. Clerk, have we received any apologies?
Yes, we have apologies from councillors Ian Cottingham and Howard Wollaston, but in Howard Wollaston's place, we have Councillor Paul Dick.
Thank you. Item 2 is the minutes. Are members willing to accept the minutes of the previous meeting as a true and accurate record? Thank you, Councillor Cottingham and Councillor Sturgis to second.
Sorry, just one minor point. On page 8 of the PDF in paragraph 4, Councillor Stephanie Stevenson, the Stephanie is spelt with an A rather than an E.
I've actually corrected that, but yeah, I saw that after I sent it out, but thank you.
Thank you. So with that amendment, do I have a seconder? Councillor Jeffrey, thank you. So can members indicate by raising their hand if they agree that the minutes can be signed as a true and accurate record? And an abstention? Thank you.
I can confirm that's been passed, thank you.
Sign later?
Yes.
Okay. Item 3, declarations of interest. Clerk, do we have any declarations of interest?
We've received none, no.
Thank you. Any from the floor? No, thank you. Item 4 is the forward plan. Officers and members, do you have any amendments that you'd like to make to the forward plan as published with the agenda? No, thank you. So forward plan to be noted. Item 5, membership of the Constitution Review Task Group. And Nicola, would you like to give an update?
Yes, thank you. So at the last meeting, it was agreed that the Constitutional Review Task Group would be re-established, and the leaders of the respective parties were consulted about the membership of that task group. The nominations that have been received are councillors Jeff Brooks, Justin Pemberton, Anthony Armitage, David Marsh and Ross McKinnon. So if you are content with that, Chairman, they will need to be proposed and agreed.
So, Chairman. Thank you. Councillor Jeffrey proposing. Anybody to second? Councillor Cottingham, thank you. Is that a vote as well?
Yes.
Yeah, and raise hands. Those in favour, thank you.
I can, that's been passed, thank you.
Okay. Item 6, the external audit letter of financial sustainability. Mr. Holmes, would you like to introduce?
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. So I'll hand over to Sophia Brown in a moment, who is from Grant Thornton, our external auditors. Grant Thornton are our external auditors through to the financial year 2022-23. And as part of their audit work here at the council, they provide an opinion both on the financial statements and also on the value for money side of things. I'm not going to talk about the financial statement side of things. On the value for money area of work, they're currently completing some work for 21-22 financial year and the 22-23 financial year, which is on the full plan due here for the next meeting. From time to time, they also write to us with various things that they might want to communicate to management, and that is the letter that we have here in the attachment to this report.
Thank you. Members, any comments to mention about this report? Councillor Cottingham.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, just a question through you, please, to Sophia Brown. What window was this taken over, the content of, and what was reviewed to give this report, please?
Thank you. So this was directly after I reviewed the quarter one financial report for 22-23. So in terms of the remit of the work we do for value for money, as Joseph mentioned, we are doing a joint year report covering 21-22 and 22-23. So in terms of 22-23, we look at the budget setting processes for the following year, which covers 23-24, which is why the area of the finances for quarter one, 23-24 falls under the remit of the work that we're doing. I think what alerted me to issue this letter is the significant deficit that was identified at the end of quarter one, and needing to know what the council had in place to mitigate that potential year-end deficit. And I'm now tracking how it's moved since then. So Joseph sent to me the quarter two financial report today, which I was able to see, and also see that that deficit position is almost halved, so that I can be reassured that the direction that the council is going in to recover its financial position is positive. It still remains a risk at a level of sort of 3 million deficit planned for the end of 23-24, but it's a lot better position than it was 3 months ago.
Great, thank you. So that's September, October, November, December of last year was the window you were looking at?
It would have been the April, May and June as quarter one.
Of 22 or 23?
Of 23-24.
23-24. Great, thank you.
Councillor Dick.
Thank you, Chairman. Can I just ask, you're saying the work's on track, and maybe the word significant is not the word you would use today, I'm not sure. Are you talking about planned savings or real savings?
Thank you. So I think looking at the quarter two report, it's the planned outturn for the end of the year. So that's where the finance team anticipates the financial position will be at the end of the year. I would still say it's a significant risk, given if the council ends up in a deficit position to that value, then the gap will impact upon the council's reserves. And given that the council's reserves are currently, as at the end of March 2023, at a level which is around what the Section 151 has set as the minimum level of reserves, if reserves are applied to a deficit at the end of March 24, that's depleting the reserves further below the minimum level you would like as a council.
Thank you.
Councillor Blowick.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I think it's encouraging that the deficit has been improved. Just a question for clarification or understanding. What is a capitalisation directive and what are the implications of it?
Mr. Holmes, can you respond?
Yes, I can. Thank you. Yeah, through you, Chair. So thanks, Councillor Bowick. So capitalisation directive is where a council will approach central government and request funding which comes in the form of capital money, but which can be used for any revenue purpose. And at the time of the COVID pandemic, a number of councils did get capitalisation directives. There were about 10. And you can then pay that money off back to the government, either like you would a sort of normal loan or through sale of capital receipts to then pay that back to central government. So it's normally done in more exceptional circumstances. But I think increasingly it's something we see perhaps a bit more in the sector as a way of avoiding perhaps having to issue a Section 114 notice, Section 114 notice being report by there's loads of acronyms in here, by a Section 151 officer, your chief finance officer, to full council saying that your outgoing funds are above your income coming in. So I suspect we might see a few more capitalisation directives as a way of warding that off. But yeah, there was about 10 councils. Bexley were one, I think. I think Peterborough granted one, but didn't actually use it in the end. So there were a few across the country that have been issued so far.
And the implications?
So the implications would be that if any council was granted a capitalisation directive, the minister would have to provide a sort of a minded to letter. So say for argument's sake, we asked for £1. So I'll keep it to a nonsense, but yeah, £1. A minister would then have to say, okay, we're minded to issue that, subject to a review of the council, and then the Department for Levelling Up Housing Community would come in, do a review, look at kind of reserve levels, how we benchmark on costs, and then report back, and then the minister would issue a formal notice. Actually, the most recent one is Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole, which was a couple of months ago, and they had their report is all in the public domain on kind of what was found there, and then they were issued with the funds.
And Chairman, just a tiny one. So what kind of a case would we need to make if the administration decided that they wanted to apply for a capitalisation directive? Is that right terminology?
Yeah, I think how the process would work is, I think, it'd be issued through the chief executive with the sort of administration, and with sort of some public transparency around that as well. And I think it's a pretty straightforward process in that the council, I think there's a form with a variety of questions on where you'd put some of that benchmarking information, some of what your plans are, etc., make that case to central government. It's then for DLUC to have a look at that. But yeah, a sort of series of questions. I'm sure government have a pro forma that they want to see all that information there. Lots of the information will be in the public domain already, either actually collected by central government or the LGA, for instance.
Councillor Marsh.
I may be missing something here, but I can't see anything in this letter that we didn't already know. In fact, when the new administration took office, they had announced pretty smartly that this was the state of the finances. So I just kind of can't really see. I mean, not that it's not reassuring knowing that you're on the case, but I can't see anything here that we didn't already know. And also, would it not be more helpful if the external auditors could see these things earlier on? I mean, was it not, for example, in any way clear before that we were heading into this situation? Because, as I say, we've known this for 6 months. And did Grant Thornton not have any inkling of any of this sooner. You saw the budget, you see the figures. That's my question. I'm not being not trying to be critical. I just genuinely don't know what quite was happening here.
So from my perspective, it's very encouraging that you know everything that's in the letter. It's nothing new. It's things that you've been reported to by Joseph and his team. So that's really great that you know what's going on, because that's not the case at every single authority. From my perspective, it's important to let you know that I do know, and that we have been looking. From my perspective and the work that my team and I do, it's not about predicting or being able to tell you this is going to happen, because I think you know your council better than we do. What I would look at the budget setting process is that the council is setting a balanced budget. So I saw that at the point that you were setting the budget, and I think it's things that have happened in the first quarter of the year that were outside of the council's expectations, especially in the people area. The demand on that service is things that have happened during the first quarter that have impacted on the budget that was set.
Thank you. That's very helpful.
Councillor Cotton.
So just ask through you, Chairman. So what triggers the letter then? I mean, at what point do you feel uncomfortable enough you have to send a letter like this, please?
I think it's a couple of points. So I was aware that the level of the deficit at the end of quarter one was quite significant, and also then looking at the impact on the council reserves. So if the planned deficit was, or forecast deficit was the level it was, but the council had huge reserves, I wouldn't have written this letter. So that was a big factor. And I think also knowing that the Section 151 officer had started having discussions with the department also was something that I wanted to make sure that I commented on.
Great, thank you very much.
Can I just ask about the timing as well? So yes, the quarter one goes up until the end of June. This letter was September or end of September. Is that a normal time frame for this sort of letter? It sounds, would have been useful in the beginning of July, I would have thought.
It's linked to the sort of time delay between the financial reporting. So I might have to refer back to Joseph to ask when the quarter one report came out, but I don't think it was too long after we saw the quarter one report that the letter was issued.
Yeah, it came out, I think, right at the end of August.
Okay. Mr. Southgate, you have a point?
Could I ask a question in terms of the £7 million of reserves? So if we were to go down such that you had £3 million of reserve for next financial year, is there any implication other than having less money in the bank to fall back on in terms of central government, or any kind of action that might occur on West Berkshire, please?
Mr. Holmes, you respond?
A very pertinent question. So I have an obligation to write to full council every year and say this is the minimum level of general fund reserve that I think we should have. And at the moment, that's set at £7 million. If we were below that as a council, then that's for full council to determine if it is happy with that level of reserve, even though it would be below, say, the level I would recommend. You might want to have a look at the full council plans and the medium-term financial strategy to top that up in the future. But there are councils who do run with a level of reserve below the minimum level set by the Section 151 officer. If it was down, for example, if we overspent by £6 million, say, and it was down £1 million, we are getting extremely tight. And at that point, to Councillor Bowett's questions around a sort of capitalisation directive, I suspect at that level, we would start to engage in discussions around that. If it's the level at sort of quarter two, around the sort of £3.3 million mark, yes, that does deplete the reserves down below the minimum level that I set out in the MTFS. See in the sort of paper for Thursday night there, that includes an increase in reserves of £1 million every single year throughout the MTFS to build them back up again. So that's for full council to determine. But there's no one figure that any council has to have as a minimum level of reserves. It's up to the 151 officer. Previously, a figure of 5% was put out by SIPFA many years ago. But there is no predetermined level as to this should be minimum level. It is absolutely fair and right to say that our comparative level is low compared to other councils.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions? I think we're noting the letter, so not voting on it, but thank you very much. We move on to item 7, which is the outcome of the external assessment of internal audit. And Mrs. Gillespie, perhaps you could introduce the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So the report is to give members an update on the external assessment that my team had in June this year. We're required under the public sector internal audit standards to have an external assessment at least once every 5 years. The last one we had was in 2018, so it was due this year. So it's just to inform members of the outcome. The report's attached as Appendix A with a detail. The overview is that we've got a fully conforms category, which is the best you can get. So we were very pleased with that. We've got no recommendations that were made. The last review in 2018, I think we had 4 recommendations. So again, to me, it's a sign that we've improved on the outcome from last time, even though we had the top category last time as well. There's no recommendation. So we're all quite happy with that, but obviously can't be complacent. We need to maintain that. And it's just to inform committee. And if you've got any questions.
Thank you. We noted the report. On behalf of the committee, I think I'd like to congratulate you and your team for a very, very successful external assessment. Congratulations. I wonder, perhaps you might be able to, I don't know if you can highlight anything that's happened since the last external assessment as to why now why now it's so good.
They made the recommendations last time and we implemented those recommendations. So yeah, I think that, and we knew, I was the manager in post at the time of the previous one, so that I knew that as long as we implemented their recommendations, we should not have gone backwards. We should have gone forwards. So and there were 4 recommendations last time, and some of those were outside the team's control anyway. It was things like having an extra member of the team. So some of it was more of a corporate decision. So I think our processes were fit for purpose before, but there was some areas where we could make some slight improvements. But we had the top category last time as well, so it isn't too big a jump, but
well done.
Thank you.
Members, any questions? No? Okay, well, thank you very much. Again, we're just noting the report, and thank you very much. So that brings us to the close of the meeting.
Chairman, can I ask you a question? Why do you sound so disappointed?
We had a meeting last week that was quite a lot longer than today. So we're used to long meetings. It's not a problem. Well, thank you very much for coming this evening and for all your contributions.